What's up, metalheads, and welcome down to the vault. And like I said, it's going to be all Hatriot all week long because we are celebrating or commemorating the release of Hatriot's third record, 5 years in the making, From Days Until Darkness. And I have with me today to talk about that and a million other things. We call him Kosta V. He is Kosta Varvatakis. How you doing?
Good, man.
Good to have you in.
Likewise.
How's everything?
Everything's great.
It's about time. I guess people have been asking me, when are you going to get the Hatriot guys in? And I knew the record was coming out. I mean, we did have Nick in a couple of weeks ago, which I think we might even rerun that episode in commemorating this week as all Hatriot all week long. Doesn't these mics make you feel like it's all Hatriot all week long?
It does. AM Gold right now.
AM Gold. So, finally, after 5 years, you're going to release the record, and we're going to get back into that. You know, we're going to talk about that. How does that feel anyway? I just want a quick reaction on
it. Feels great. It's a sigh of relief for sure. Finally get to put all these awesome songs out.
Well, and your guitar work is amazing on this record. Stellar, the best you've done yet. And again, we'll get into that. But I'm going to start with Costa from the beginning because obviously, you know, those of you who know how it went. Those of you who don't, is the reason Hatriot was really conceived was because I had met Costa and saw him actually play before I met him. And I've been very fortunate to play with some of the best guitar players in the world. I mean, you know, Eric Peterson, Derek Ramirez, Alex Skolnick, Gary Holt, Rick Hunold, Lee Haltis, Craig and Lum. I mean, the list goes down. And this one is right in there, if not at the top of that list, as far as players and people that I see that have it. And I don't know, it's not like this trying to say I have this gift of finding it. I just been lucky enough to fall into that place. And I was fortunate enough to meet you. And we'll talk about that as well. But what I really wanted to talk about is, because you're such a dedicated player and you really know the catalog of music really well. I mean, you go like, Costa, play this hair metal song, and it'll be that's why we did Midnight Maniac on Dawn of the New Centurion, because
drove him crazy.
Every time I went to practice, I had to hear hear that riff constantly over and over again. So I go, all right, we'll fucking do it. But I know your parents are Greek because you're the second Greek person in my life. The love of my life, my significant other, is full-blooded Greek, and I'd never been around a Greek person in my life until I met Vicky, and then I meet you like right after that, and you guys meet, and I was like, oh, his name's like Costa. I didn't even know what a Greek name was at then. I don't know, his name was like Kosta Varvatakis or something like that. And she's Varvatakis. And I said, yeah. How do you know? He's like, because that's a Greek name. And so then he comes over when he meets her. And they're like, oh, Komatitatakis. Oh, Komatyatud. And all in Greek. And I'm going, wow, that's really rude. You don't speak the same language of everybody else in the room. But that's kind of how it went down. So I know your parents didn't listen to metal. How did it start? When did you start playing guitar? And what was your first guitar?
So, going back to my parents, actually my first exposure to music in general is actually my father. He plays Cretan folk music.
Right, because you play the lute.
I play the lute, too. My dad plays the lyre, or lira, as we call it in Greece. As far as getting into metal goes, my old sisters, both my older sisters.
We'll talk about playing the lute. No, I want you to go into that as well. I mean, talk about being, you do like Costa does Greek weddings. You can give him a call. He's right behind. Talk about how old were you when he handed you the lute?
I actually picked up the lute later on. I had already been playing guitar at that point.
Oh, so that's the inception
I was 18. And I was trying to get back into my roots a little bit.
I see.
That clicked too.
Okay.
But like I said, my earliest exposure was the Cretan folk music, and then my older sisters, they had Columbia House and all that stuff, so they would get like all these metal tapes.
You get like 9 of them at a time for to pay. If you buy the thing now, that was in every magazine. So I did that too.
In my family, there was like a trickle-down effect. There was one cousin that got into like rock, he got in like Metallica and Guns N' Roses and stuff, and it just trickled down, and my sisters caught the trickle-down effect. And my oldest sister really, I grew up hearing Iron Maiden, Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, all that stuff.
Okay, so how old are you, and what year are we in when this is all happening?
God, I was my first exposure to really metal. I was as young as like 5 years old, hearing
So
Megadeth.
we're talking 95 or 94, because you're 30 now, right?
Yeah, 93. Even.
93 even, huh, listening to early Megadeth.
Hearing like that stuff. And, my sisters had the posters up on the wall. And even when I was a little kid, I'd look at, like the Divine Intervention era Slayer poster and be like, I want to be like them when I grow up. And
That happened.
Fast forward a few years, and I'm 12 years old, and I finally convinced my mom to get me an electric guitar. I had a problem with shaking around too much, and I was like, it would help me channel my energy. And she came in, and I got, I remember it was on my name day. It was an Encore Stratocaster ripoff with a custom amp. It was spelt with a K, and that was my first.
I remember that. Now, name day, if you guys don't know, because I didn't fucking know, to a Greek, a name has a certain day of the year, like a birthday. And to the Greeks, it's basically bigger than a birthday.
A lot more people share it, so there's, a celebration.
The celebration.
It's not uncommon to walk into like a regular business, and if like the owner it's his name day, he'll have like shots lined up, and the people will be like, oh, whose name day is it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, that to me that was interesting. So you picked it up real quick?
As soon as I figured out the power chord, which was about a week in, I started just jamming tons of Misfits songs because that was the easiest thing to play at the time, and kind of evolved from there. Misfits, then I went and like Metallica Kill 'Em All, and then from Metallica Kill 'Em All, I started learning like more Simple Maiden stuff, and then I think I was probably almost 13, and then I snuck into my sister's room because I used to do that. I would sneak into her room and take all of her cassette tapes, and she'd get mad at me. I found a cassette tape with the goat pointing at a waterfall with blood on it, and I was like, Slayer. And that was the game changer. That was the game changer. I was like, I want to play Crazy Fast and all that stuff, and Slayer in Blood was like my album. I can play that album front to back. That
well, what's interesting to me is as I'm talking to you, because you're so much younger than me, and the second wave of the metal generation. But what captures me is that there were so many other genres of music out at that time, rap and stuff like that, which you know the rap stuff. I know you rap, you do pretty good with that, but I think a true metalhead and somebody that's bred to play it is just drawn to it. Don't you think? Because I'm drawn to it. I'm still drawn to it.
I feel that in order for you to even be able to play the music at all or learn it, you have to have a passion for it. You have to love it. It has to be part of your soul.
Exactly.
And metal definitely, it just something about it. Just
right.
Always
and
called
I
to
agree.
Me.
And it's funny because if you're not a metalhead, you may necessarily get it. But if you are, it's like if you're in a mall or somewhere and you got a Slayer t-shirt on, and some other guy's got an Exodus t-shirt on, when you walk by each other,
cool shirt, dude,
you're going to go, right on, brother. It's like this camaraderie. Do you understand? It's like this unwritten fraternity that is all amongst us, as, we know who each other are. You know what I mean? We feel each other's, aura or soul, because that's what a true metalhead knows. And I think when I met you, I think that was the first thing that I saw about that. So you're 13 years old now, and now you have a guitar. You're learning stuff. Was your next progression to start a band?
So I didn't think about starting a band till about 3 years later, but I had already learned how to play guitar pretty good by then.
So, I mean, you're just, okay, let me ask you a question. Are you writing your own songs yet?
Yeah.
You are. You are.
Trying to make my own riffs up, but they weren't quite up to par with what I was listening to.
But that has to start somewhere, right? Right? You have to start somewhere.
And I believe the first song I ever wrote I actually used in my first band, and I think I was like 15 when I wrote it. It ended up being a song in Cranial Damage called In the Dead of Night. And I actually wrote that when I was like 15.
So you did use it. You did use a song. And did you ever demo that song?
I'm sure a demo exists somewhere.
So if you go on YouTube or something?
Maybe. I think if you go maybe dig in deep, if you can get MySpace to work, maybe it'll play. I do have a demo somewhere. I might have to post it up one of these days, but that was the first song I ever wrote. And then...
Did you write lyrics with it as well?
I did end up writing the lyrics later on.
did?
They're horrible. They're absolutely terrible. Cheesy.
Well, I think that's why I handled the lyrical writing.
Yeah.
When I was in Hatred. Nah, I did.
Right?
I would have done it anyway. So
what made me end up getting in a band was when I was in my early teens, metal was like non-existent. Like that camaraderie was like tenfold.
And what year are we talking?
We're talking like in my early teens, like 01, 02. It was really
well, yeah, and believe me, from being in the business from '93 till that time, I couldn't get a game of sliced rice for anybody. Nobody
like,
gave a fuck.
Big bands that I was into were playing at the Pound and like inside.
Judas Priest would play, not because recently they've played the Warfield on their choice, sold out. They could play arenas.
Yeah.
But there was a time where Priest, Halford had stepped out and Ripper was in and they played the Warfield. You wasn't even full, you know what I mean? It was like maybe half or something. I'm like, this is fucking Priest. I think maybe the death metal bands were the only thing doing anything at that time.
If that, I mean...
and Pantera, and that was it. And that was it. It was just basically that. I know. I felt that.
And even then, death metal is such a... I love death metal, but it's such an acquired taste that, a lot of even metal fans don't really like it too much. So, no one was really packing the shows for that either.
No.
It wasn't until probably around 2000... later end of 2002, 2003, when the metalcore bands started coming up, I remember I was in like freshman in high school, like going to be a sophomore, and I heard like Killswitch Engage for the first time, and I'm like, holy shit, it's back. Real metal's back. Shadows Fall, holy shit, they're doing solos again. Yeah. It sounds like the shit I grew up listening to. Chimera, Unearth, all those bands. Right. They brought it back, and then all of a sudden everyone was starting bands, and I'm like, well, I guess it's my turn. The first band I was ever in was not Cranial Damage. It was a band called Insurgent. We made like 3 songs, and...
how long did it last?
Oh, like 5-6 months. Then
so you never played a gig with that?
Never played a gig. And then we broke up, and me and Weston ended up forming Cranial Damage, and we started doing shows. And
how long after you started it, Costa, did you do shows?
Cranial Damage, me and Weston actually were in a band for about a year till we found the right people to be in the band with us. I think our first show we played without a bassist. Just me, Weston, and Shane. Yeah.
And what year is this in now?
2005, 2006.
2005, 2006.
Yep.
And so have you graduated high school yet?
I graduated 06.
So right then.
Right then. And after I graduated high school is when we started doing shows more often. And I remember, there weren't really any metal bands at all. It was all mostly metalcore and like more on the As I Lay Dying kind of.
Right.
I remember there was a band called Catherine from Sacramento, and once they played in Modesto at a venue called Kingdom Coffee, everyone wanted to sound like that band.
Well, it was I remember going to Sounds of the Underground.
Yeah.
And it was all like In Flames and that
the melodic stuff.
Kind of that sort of stuff was getting some run.
Yeah.
And it was kind of coming back up.
Just basically taking Flames riffs but throw breakdowns over them, and that's what everyone was doing.
Yeah.
And it was really odd for us at first. Cranial Damage, especially when I sang from, we just sounded like Creator's demos. We wore like sleeveless shirts, and everyone's like, what is this? 1986 not end?
Yeah.
So we kept that going, and then we got our singer Jim, and that's when I started writing a lot more of the heavier stuff that would eventually become some of the Hatriot stuff when you and I met.
Right.
We had been a band for about 2.5 years, 3 years when I met you.
Okay, so you demoed some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And you can get it out if you go on YouTube. Can you get it?
I don't think any actual demos.
Oh, somebody has. You never released it?
I have some demos. It was released on MySpace. And
Which
MySpace
is all gone.
It's all gone.
So God tells you how long ago that was.
Yeah.
So, that's something you can go make money off now. You can go do that, get that Cranial Damage and repackages it. That's it. Read the beginning of Kosta Varvatakis.
You can find some videos of us on YouTube.
You can.
They're out there.
Cranial Damage.
With a K.
With a K, right.
With a K.
With a K.
The funniest thing was when I met you, that was the last show I was going to do with
Well, I
them.
remember you saying that.
I talked to Nick, I remember. I was like, dude, I think this is my last show. I can't really do this anymore. I'm starting to argue with him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I went and saw. I was going out there to support my children in the business, and Nick was in this band called Knuckle Duster. Yeah, that was a great show for him. Well, there was a good thing that came out of that show. I met you, but you know, when you're starting your new band, and I don't know what there was so many problems on their stage that I think Nick's boom stand or the mic stand fell over, or cymbal stand during the set. The guy's guitar was so out of tune. It was just like it was hitting chords, and I just wanted to, you know, put my head in the sand. Like what animal does that? There's a fucking ostrich or whatever, puts his head in the fucking sand. And I was like, oh, and that's Zetro's son. It's like,
I don't know if you
fucking grinding teeth, glass and shit like that. So then I walked up to you and I asked you hey, do you know who I am? You know, and he's, oh yeah, I'm a big Exodus fan. And I wasn't planning on starting a band, but then I did, you know, because I met him. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but you do play the lute, and you went into that a little bit. Talk about why you got into going and playing Greek music, and was it something that you wanted to have with your father, like a camaraderie thing, or were you really, you know, I know how that you're coming of age and you want to find your own fucking, my heritage. I was so proud.
You know, it was more so I grew up around that music, and I always would listen to it from time to time. Especially with being Cretan, there's a association called the Pan-Cretan Youth Association, and it's where a lot of kids whose families and, you know, everybody's from Crete, and we all meet together and they have dances and conferences. So I went to one, and a few of the kids had already picked it up, and I picked up the lute and started messing around with it, and I started figuring out the songs because the concept is the same as guitar.
Uh-huh.
And I had already had plans to go to Greece that summer. I'm like, you know what? Let me pick up one of these too. Learned Cretan music, and it helped me get closer with my dad, absolutely, because, you know, he had someone to jam with. I always wanted to pick it up. It's just a very hard instrument to learn, and I think guitar laid the foundation down. And
are you a lute wizard like you are with guitar?
I just have more years under my belt. Lute takes a lifetime to master, and it's one of those instruments you'll never fully master. It's just, there's always something.
So there's not the king of the lute out there. His name is Molaka Notaki Tatakis, and he's fucking. The king of the lute king.
The lute king. For me, the lute king, he's not alive anymore. Yannis Marko Yannis. He was the best one.
See, I can't even say that. You can't even write that down.
Or there's a few of them, mostly the old timers, because they kind of helped shape the way it's even played. And it's not just the lute too. There were even bouzouki, which I don't play. There's a lot of musicians in the previous century that helped shape how that music sounds.
Now you from time to time you'll do a wedding, or you'll do stuff like that. You know, is that with your father when you play usually?
No, usually I'll play with whoever plays the lyre. My dad doesn't play too much live anymore, but there's a few guys that play Cretan music out in the West Coast, and
now, is it a sheet music thing, Costa, or do you guys there and go, you know, okay, we're going to play Osaka Molaki in, and then you play, you know what to play? Or is it a feel thing where you guys
it's a feel.
It's
very much feel. A lot of these songs existed for hundreds of years.
Oh, I see.
A lot of the melodies.
So you're not writing no new, you got no new riffs going on there.
There's so many pieces that have been around for so long, that hundreds and hundreds of pieces. A lot of the folk music is... it goes by feel, and it also goes by how the dancer's dancing too. If you see a dancer doing lots of steps, you'll play like a more upbeat song. If you see like it's a dancer more focused on finesse, you might want to slow it down.
Amazing.
It caters to the dancer.